On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the NBA Finals are set. It's the Thunder and Pacers. Who's going to come out on top?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, media member and beat writer for Thunder and SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. On today's show, we're joined by Brandon Rahbar, dailythunder.com, 1077 The Franchise, to discuss the Paul George Bowl, the Tony Bradley Bowl, the Cliff Brunt Bowl. It's the NBA Finals, OKC Thunder against the Indiana Pacers. Brandon, how crazy is it to be doing an NBA Finals preview?
This is wild. First of all, thanks for having me come on this one. We literally just found out 10 minutes ago that it's going to be the Pacers, even though we suspected. So to get to preview an NBA Finals and get to cover the NBA Finals, we're pretty fortunate. There are reporters for teams like the Hornets, like, not to throw anybody under the bus, but like, you cover a team for like 40 years and never get to cover an NBA Finals. So I know that you're excited. I'm very excited to be covering a team that's in the NBA Finals this year. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be so much fun. I'm glad that the black eye is healed for OKC and that they've been able to make it to the NBA Finals before those Charlotte Hornets who are doing things right, according to old Justin Termini. But Brandon, this has just been a wild ride that we've had. I mean, you've been coming on this podcast, documenting with us the journey from this Thunder team rebuilding to being that up-and-coming young team to still being a young team, but now having won the Western Conference. We predicted before the season that this team had a good chance to go to the finals. We were a little bit hesitant about like them winning the championship and all that. But when in this season did it become a reality to you that the Thunder were going to be NBA Finals good? Like that prediction was going to be legitimate?
So I would say it was pretty early in the season because, like you said, we both predicted the Thunder to get to the finals. I remember on the Locked On season preview. If I remember, you forced, Rylan, to make a prediction. We both went Celtics, Thunder. I think you ultimately went Celtics, and in a coin toss, I went Thunder. So we'll see if that happens. But I would say early on, it became apparent that, yeah, this is an NBA Finals team. I would say when they started off winning, 6 in a row in dominant fashion, opening night on the road against the Nuggets and Joker, and, right before that Chet injury, they looked like the best team in the NBA. Now, it was a small sample size, but it looked like they could do some special stuff. But then when they didn't have Chet for like half of the season, and they were still dominating teams with Hartenstein. So I would say somewhere before Christmas, where they were still a dominating team. They still won games even without Chet and Hartenstein. And I was like, if they're doing this without any bigs, and then they're doing this with Hart but without Chet, they did it with Chet but without Hartenstein. And you just kind of like formulated in your mind, like, well, what happens when they get both Chet and Hartenstein and Caruso, because Caruso had missed a lot of games at that point too. So kind of thinking of like the Voltron, all of the pieces forming to like become this super powered team. That's when it became apparent to me. It's like you saw the vision of what this team could be because they were dominating everybody without some of their best players. So it became apparent that this was an NBA Finals team to me.
Yeah, and when I look at this kind of outcome for the season, I would totally agree that before that Warriors game where Chet did fracture his hip, we were riding high with that prediction because this defense was doing exactly what you thought that they would do. I mean, we had shows on this Locked On Thunder podcast about how the Thunder's defense was creating these avalanches to bury teams and comparing them to the Golden State Warriors back in October, like the dynastic Warriors back in October. And through every bump and bruise along the way, through every piece of adversity, that remained true. Like the fact that this team won 68 games with all that they've had to go through is crazy. Like, it's wild and a testament to how great that this team has. I think that when you kind of put it all together, with what the season has been, they were clearly the best team in the NBA all regular season long. In the playoffs, when you look at the totality of it, they've been the best team in the playoffs. They went to 7 with Denver, but that really helped them. It really kind of matured them quickly, accelerated that maturation process. But other than that, they swept the Grizzlies and they made quick work of the Minnesota Timberwolves, only losing 1 game. And now they sit here in the NBA Finals, not against the Boston Celtics like we thought, not even against the Cleveland Cavaliers, because they were having a great season too, against the Indiana Pacers, who just got through the New York Knicks in 6 games. As you mentioned, we just watched it happen 10 minutes ago. It kind of puts things in a weird perspective because this team is so young, and you look forward to a sustained run in Oklahoma City where they're going to have many chances to get back here. But at the end of the day, they're here. Like at the end of the day, neither team has finals experience, and one team's clearly better. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on the Thunder to win it right now. I think that this is their best chance to win it, whereas they'll have other chances, I fully believe, to win an NBA championship. But you've made it through the West, and you've gotten to the NBA Finals against a team that you're clearly better than. And like you have to now go prove that on the floor starting in game 1 of this NBA Finals on Thursday. I think that the Thunder should be the heavy favorites in this one, just kind of looking at this from an overview.
Yeah, this is easily the Thunder's best chance in their history in Oklahoma City to win a finals. I know that KD, Russ, Harden team was elite, and that title window got hurt because of multiple injuries 3 years in a row to KD, Russ, and to Serge Ibaka. But the year that they went to the finals, they were facing off against a prime LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, that Heatles team. I think they could have beaten that team. They didn't ultimately win, obviously. But that's, the Pacers are a very good team, and they are very deserving. But this Thunder team is better than that 2012 Thunder team. And this Pacers team, as great as they are, they don't have prime LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh on that team. So as far as like best chance to win a title, they are there. They are 4 games away. They have home court advantage. They have the best player in the series in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have the best unit in the series as far as the Thunder's defense being the best unit. They have the role players. They have the second star. They have the third star. They have the depth. And again, we'll break this down. I think the Pacers are very deserving, but man, I agree. The Thunder have got to be the heavy favorites because when you look at this season, 68 wins, you look at this dominant run through the playoffs, especially the way the Thunder has played at home, and it feels like it's the Thunder's title to go out there and just take it and win it.
Yeah, and I mean, you factor in too, like this is only their second finals appearance, and the first one was against the Heatles, and a desperate Heatles. You couldn't lose 2 finals in a row if you're LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh after the whole not 1, not 2, not 3, having lost to just Dirk and having lost to an upstart Thunder squad. So it's like the challenges are night and day. And I do agree that this iteration of the Thunder is a better basketball team than the 2012 Thunder were. And they're facing a notch below opponent than that 2012 Thunder faced. And again, the home court advantage is a big deal. And the home court advantage in a different format too, of just having the 2-2-1-1-1 situation helps OKC a great deal. Now, coming up, let's talk about the X factors for this series, what to watch for when you're breaking down these 2 teams. And we're going to put Brandon on the hot seat again. We're going to force him to make another prediction. How is this series going to end? All coming up. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at DoorDash, go check out DoorDash today because NBA fans, you know what time it is. It's the NBA Finals. Big performances and even bigger rewards are on deck. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 25 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swish You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use code Wingstop50 at checkout, and the combo is yours. It's a crispy, delicious, and totally free combo. Offer valid from noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms and conditions apply. And so here's the play. Just sign up right now for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 or more purchase with the code Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass. It's your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win Terms and conditions apply. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Talking with Brandon Rahbar, dailythunder.com, 1077 The Franchise, OKC Dream Team. You can find Brandon and myself over there. Brandon, let's talk Thunder Pacers. Whenever you have this matchup now fresh in your mind, having just watched game number 6, what do you think will be one of the biggest X factors for this series?
I think turnovers. The Thunder generate turnovers better and more often than any other team. And the Thunder score points off of generated turnovers more often and better than any other team. The Pacers really take care of the ball. They don't turn over the ball. Tyrese Haliburton, kind of his calling card is the fact that he is such an elite playmaker and passer without turning the ball over. And he's going to be the one that's, controlling this offense. He's the engine that makes it run. So he's a guy that doesn't really turn the ball over, and the Thunder generate so much offense from that. So I think, to me, the one X factor is going to be like, what breaks here? Something's got to break. The Thunder turn the ball over. Their defense is smothering, swarming, and they will go and take the ball from Dort to Caruso to Jada to Cason Wallace, Shai. That's what they do. But the Pacers really take care of the ball. And the Thunder want to generate offense from that. So to me, that's the number one X factor in this series.
I completely agree. And it was the X factor for the Pacers and Knicks series as well. The Pacers in just game 6, 35-13 points off turnovers. They won that, and then they get a dominating win. In game 6, fast break points, 25-10. The Pacers win again just in game 6 to help them win this series. And it's also just the overall pace of the game. The turnovers will kind of dictate that pace. But you saw how many times that the Pacers were able to generate easy semi-transition layups on the other end just by taking the ball out of the net and firing it down the floor with the outlet passing of Tyrese Halliburton and getting the ball in quickly off the inbound. Like, they just can generate odd looks, like whenever they have numbers, even off of made shots, where the Thunder have to be very disciplined in. Even after they get a make, you've got to get back on defense and get settled in, because this is a historically great defense, but you've got to let yourself get set. And you've seen OKC, if there is any critique of this Thunder's historically great defense, when you don't let them get set into their defensive shell, that's when you have your best opportunity to strike. It's not foolproof, but it's why Jokic gave them trouble. And it's why you saw Mark try to pull out the old permanent sub and leave Dylan Jones at the table to try to prevent that. This is what Indiana likes to do as well. Maybe Dylan Jones will get a few more cameos here in this series at the table because of that fact. But the pace overall will be huge. No pun intended with the Indiana Pacers. I also think that whenever you do get this game into the half court, where is the Pacers' 3-point variance going to level off at in the NBA Finals? Because they've seen some dramatic swings in this series alone. And it's like in game 6, in these games that they win, tonight they shot 51% from 3. Like, they're able to generate and knock down triples, especially in the corners. And that's where the Thunder concede a lot of threes, just by the way that their defense is set up to try to swarm Pascal Siakam, try to swarm Tyrese Halliburton, force the ball out of their hands. Well, when you do that, you're going to let up open looks to guys like Aaron Nesmith, to guys like Ben Mathurin, who didn't take a single 3 tonight, but Obi Toppin took 4. Thomas Bryant went 3 for 4 from 3 tonight. Like, you're going to have open looks from Andrew Nembhard as well. You're going to have open threes for Indiana. Are they going to be able to capitalize on them in the biggest moment on the biggest stage and do enough? Because I do think that it's not both, right? Like, I think that the Thunder's defense, yes, they're going to let up open looks to these role players, but they're not going to let up, 31 points from Siakam and 21 points from Haliburton, who got hot in that fourth quarter to really boost his stat line. But it's like, if they are going to stay disciplined to taking away the top 2 options, like they have all postseason, like they have all regular season, then that puts a lot of onus on these open looks of capable shooters from Indiana to continue to come through, as they have all postseason knocking down threes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That was the other big thing that stood out to me, is like, who are the Thunder going to funnel these 3-point shots to, and what is the shooting variance going to be on those 3-point shots? Because Indiana is a very good 3-point shooting team. And the Thunder, like you said, will concede those corner threes. But look, Indiana has not faced pressure from a defense like they're going to face in Oklahoma City. Tyrese Haliburton is an elite player, and he's obviously climbing the ranks of like player ranks in everybody's minds, deservedly so. But he has not faced the defense and the pressure that the Thunder are going to bring. So I'm very curious to see how this kind of well-oiled offensive Indiana machine does against this Thunder defense and all the pressure. And like you said, taking away Haliburton and Siakam and making the other guys pay. Yes, they can shoot, but man, it's just a different animal. This Thunder defense is just a different animal than anybody's seen. Like, look at how the Timberwolves offense looked against the Lakers and the Warriors, and look how they looked against the Thunder. Look at how easy things were for Anthony Edwards and for Julius Randle in those first 2 rounds, and then look how they were against the Thunder. Look how easy things were for Jokic in pretty much any series in his entire career. And then look how it was against the Thunder. Like, the Thunder will take away your top option, or they'll at least, slow them down, make things difficult for your top 2 options, like you said. So the Pacers have 2 clear stars in Haliburton and Siakam. So it's the Miles Turners, it's the Andrew Nembhards, and all those guys. How are they going to perform in step? And that's where the Thunder home court advantage, Loud City, really comes into play. There's a reason why the Thunder's point differential at home is the biggest in playoff history so far through the first 3 rounds. They are just drilling teams at home because it's harder for role players to shoot well. On the road, we saw that. Look at Jay McDaniels, how he shot in Minnesota versus how he shot in Game 5 in Oklahoma City. With Loud City, with this crowd, with this defense, with this pressure, Indiana is going to face the most defensive pressure and the most hostile environment they face so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's harder to protect the ball too. It's hard to get into your actions on the road. It's like you saw Minnesota take care of the ball fairly well against this Thunder team at home, compared to what the Thunder typically do turnover-wise. And then they get back to the Paycom Center and they're kicking the ball all over the place in Game 5 and lose the series. I think that Game 4 of that Minnesota series could go a long way in deciding the NBA Finals. Of just in Game 4, Minnesota got everyone's best shot as a role player. Like, everybody, Dante DiVincenzo, they were all hitting their threes in that Game 4, and that's why it was such a close game. But they never could grow a lead above 2 points, and they end up losing a tight one because the Thunder's top 3 just were clicking on all cylinders and had like half their points in that game. Whereas while the role players were going off, and like literally every single player played great in Game 4 except for Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. And once you take away the top 2 guys, like, then it changes the entire complexity of what a team can do. And so I'm very curious about how the Thunder handle Tyrese Halliburton, who's an exceptional playmaker, who is great at protecting the basketball and setting his teammates up. How does he look as a scorer against Oklahoma City? And then Pascal Siakam as well, who's going to have some interesting matchups. Like, he can face double bigs, but he also would be able to look at a J-Dub matchup, look at a Caruso matchup, just changing the coverages on him. Does he overpower those 2 guys? Does he struggle against those 2 guys? Like, if they can truly shut down the top 2 options, that'll be very fascinating. And then what if the Thunder just change their entire identity? I don't expect this to happen, but what if they just force Haliburton to score? And it's like, yeah, you're such a great passer that we can't afford to swarm you, and we can't afford to swarm Siakam, because all of you guys are the thing about the Pacers is Haliburton is a fantastic magician-like playmaker, but when you get the ball out of his hands, he's passing to really good secondary playmakers who just keep the ball moving and keep the ball swinging around the perimeter to find the holes in your defense. So it's like, there's not anyone that you want Haliburton to get the ball to who would be a ball stopper and stall out their offense. So would you rather just play everybody straight up on the back end and force Haliburton, who's not a natural scorer, although he is a good one, he's not a natural scorer, he's a natural pass-first point guard. Would you rather just see if he can go score 40 in a game and have the Pacers win? I don't think that the Thunder will change it that dramatically, but it is something that the Thunder can go to and try to change the looks whenever the Pacers are expecting the alternative. And then kind of the flip side of that coin for the X factors would be the Thunder haven't had a fantastic 3-point shooting series yet. and they have capable guys. Like they don't have, obviously they don't have the consistency. Obviously they don't have guys who, like, without a shadow of a doubt, will knock down threes. But all these guys are capable of getting hot, and they haven't all gotten hot at the exact same time in the exact same series. I'm not saying it's going to happen in the finals, but what if it does? Like, then that changes how the Thunder look as well. So there are these little variables that could swing both ways.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that too. I think you made a great point because we haven't seen a great 3-point shooting series from the Thunder. And this is the Thunder team that, from 2025, January 1st through the rest of the regular season, we're the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA. And you feel like a hot, series was coming at some point. We've had hot games. We've had some hot moments, but not a whole hot series from three. And Indiana is just shooting so well. You wonder if those things were to kind of balance out a little bit, that tips heavily in the Thunder's favor. And also, this Indiana defense, while they play great team defense and they have some really nice individual, defenders, they don't have, I don't think, anybody the caliber of McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Aaron Gordon, and that zone defense that Denver had. So I think that the Thunder offense, I think there will be some cracks that they can take advantage of. Plus, J-Dub just is getting better and better each game in the playoffs. Like, we are seeing him improving in real time in the playoffs, becoming more and more of a reliable second scorer. And we see Chet becoming more and more reliable. He's been very, very consistent. So if the Thunder Big Three continue playing the way that they've played throughout these last couple series and how they keep improving together as a unit, that's a big factor for the Thunder as well, because that's the one thing. The Thunder offense, it's been up and down. They generate a lot of offense through their defense. Shai is always going to bring 30 to 40 points. We know that. But then it's like the role players, the other guys, can they hit shots? Are they going to be hot from three? But I truly think if Dub and Chet keep playing the way that they do, and you have Shai, you can count on him, and you can count on this defense, I think the Thunder will be in good shape.
I think so too. And coming up, we'll talk more about X factors and storylines to watch from this flyover finals between the Indiana Pacers and the OKC Thunder. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from, including on YouTube. We're joined by Brandon Rahbar, dailythunder.com, 1077 The Franchise. Brandon, you're looking good. You're feeling good. Everything's good right now as the Thunder are in the NBA Finals. What do you think will happen game one as we shift into some storylines? Who's defending Shai? Is it going to be by committee? Do you think that they're going to have to blitz him and double team him and try to throw the kitchen sink at him? Do you think that there's someone that they'd at least trust to start onto Shai as a one-on-one defender?
I think it'll be Andrew Nembhard. I think that's their best shot. And he's a solid defender. Don't get me wrong. But like I mentioned, he's just not Jaden McDaniels. And, he's a nice defender. But is he Amin Thompson? Is he Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Casey Wallace? Like the litany of defenders like the Thunder have. Look, I think Shai's going to get his. He's been incredible this postseason. It's so funny because there was this early narrative oh, Shai's struggling. If you look at his playoffs, he's been incredible. He had a couple of, by his standards, rough games against the Grizzlies. And pretty much since then, he's been excellent. Shai, I think, they'll throw Nembhard on him. They'll probably try some zone. They'll probably try some traps. They'll probably try some doubles. They'll probably try by committee. It's all just trying because it's Shai, and ultimately Shai's going to get his. So if you're the Pacers, then you got to worry about Dub. You got to worry about Chet. You got to worry about the three-point shooting because I just think Shai's going to get his. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that Rick Carlisle, just having watched him for his whole Mavs tenure and remembering fondly the junk zone that he would throw at the Clippers with Boban out there. I mean, just all the wacky stuff that Rick Carlisle is willing to do as a head coach. I think that game one, you'll see something crazy. You'll see some box and one, you'll see some zone, you'll see just something that Rick Carlisle has cooked up. And then when push comes to shove, it'll be Nembhard who has the assignment of being the point of attack, like primary guy on Shai, also with gap help behind him and with leaving a guy at the rim to try to pick him up once he slithers his way past Nembhard and company. But I think that at the start, you'll see some zone. You'll see some wackiness from the Pacers. But I do think that it'll be mostly Nembhard. And then I wonder if the Pacers will just surrender a three-point shooter, thinking of like Lou Dort, of like just cross-matching Turner onto Lou Dort and leaving Turner at the rim at all times. And if Lou Dort goes 4 for 8, you tip your cap to him and move on. If he goes 2 for 10, you live with it every single day of the week. So it's like the volatility of loose shooting, I think, could let them keep someone at the rim permanently in this series, and understanding that it's a best of 7. And if you only lose a couple due to Lou Dort getting hot, but for the remaining games, you have great defense on Shai, that's kind of, losing the battle to win the war. If you're Indiana, I think that storyline will be very interesting to follow along with for the Pacers, defending Shai, and then how the Thunder defend Haliburton. Again, I could see them changing some things up, but I do think that they'll start with their typical bread and butter of just conceding the corners and swarming the ball and putting pressure onto the ball and seeing if they can get the Pacers out of their rhythm and out of their typical routines of protecting the basketball. When you look at another storyline for me, who's going to start? Who's going to start and who's going to play starting minutes? Because at the end of that Timberwolves series, like, they were starting double big, but who played starter minutes was single big with Chet at the center. So I do think that there's 2 different answers there. How do you think that they will start? And do you think that they'll have a different starting minute rotation?
I think they'll keep Hartenstein in the starting lineup. They'll stay consistent with that. And so they'll start double bigs, and they'll want to see how it plays out. And if it's working, they'll roll with it. But I expect, just like we saw against the Timberwolves, for Hartenstein to get more bench-like minutes and for Alex Caruso to get those starters minutes. And if it's a close game, maybe we see Alex Caruso in with the starters, maybe even Cason Wallace. It's almost like you can guarantee it's going to be Shai, Dub, and Chet, obviously getting, the big minutes. And then Dort, Caruso, I think, are next in line. And then Cason Wallace, Hartenstein. Like, to me, like, it's a firm 7 now, like, clearly. Like, I think Aaron Wiggins, any given night, could play, 10 to 20 minutes. I think Isaiah Joe, any given night, 10 to 20 minutes. Kenrich Williams, Jay Will. There will be nights, there will be games where those guys get into the rotation. But I think it's clearly now Mark is leaning on those first 7 guys. And I think especially Caruso is getting the playoff bump. And it's very easy to see why.
If I take SGA off the table, who is the most important Thunder player, not named SGA, not the league MVP?
I think you can make an argument. First of all, I think you can make an argument for Alex Caruso. I don't think it's Alex Caruso, but I think you can make an argument from Alex Caruso. It's very clearly either J-Dub or Chet. And I could understand arguments for either one. Look, they need Dub's secondary scoring. They need a secondary playmaking. His versatile defense, like you mentioned earlier, I can easily see him getting minutes on Siakam, but also getting minutes on anybody else in the lineup. Just name a guy, Jada might check him at some point, that versatility. But then Chet, again, the fact that you have a 7-1 guy who can bring, like Miles Turner is a good shot blocker. If you're bringing Turner out, like making him, defend at the perimeter, you just force so many issues and matchup problems by having a guy like Chet. And then I think his shot blocking, his rim defense, his ability to close out, his ability to switch onto the perimeter. Forced to choose, I will go with Dub, but I'm talking like I'm 52% leaning Dub and 48% leaning Chet here on this answer.
Yeah, I mean, those are the 3 names that I had in my Rolodex. I also am going to pick Jalen Williams because I just don't think that you can win the finals without Jalen Williams being who he was offensively in that Minnesota series and who he was offensively in that Game 7 against Denver. Like, he has to be that level offensively of just playing with such great force around the rim. Like you mentioned, the playmaking has been huge for him. Like being able to space the floor vertically with iHeart and throwing lobs, like in the pick and roll, especially against these Pacers defenders down low. That's going to be a big deal. And then defensively, if you're going to concede the corners in the sense of like relying on athletic closeouts to make it tough on these Pacers role players, it's going to be J-Dub who's going to have to gamble in the passing lanes and then retreat back to the corner and get a clean contest onto a guy like Nembhard, onto a guy, that the Pacers are going to spray the ball out to, like Nesmith, and you're going to have to rely on Dub to get that done and be disciplined in those areas to really help OKC thrive defensively. So there's just so much on his plate that it has to be him. If you were going to go for a true X factor of like, let's take away the top 3 guys from both teams of like who's going to be the X factor of that next wave, I think then it would be Caruso / Cason Wallace. But since we're only taking away Shai, I would agree it's going to be J-Dub because he just has so much responsibility for this team and their success whenever they're trying to win their first NBA championship. And Brandon, is there any other storylines that you're looking for? It's the Paul George Bowl. It's the flyover finals. It's the Cliff Brunt Bowl. Like, what are you interested in our first ever time covering the finals?
Let me say this. I want to say I really enjoy the fact that it's 2 small market teams. I know that there's going to be some media members up in arms and disappointed or whatever it is. These 2 teams are so deserving. The Thunder, obviously, because they had one of the most dominant regular seasons and one of the most dominant playoff runs we've seen in NBA history. And the fact that the Pacers steamrolled through the Bucks, I know they weren't whole, but still, then they beat the Cavs. I know they're beat up, but that's still a 64-win team. And then you beat a Knicks team that beat the Celtics. So I think both these teams are very deserving. I know that, people are talking about NBA ratings or like, is this Adam Silver's worst nightmare? What? This is great basketball. These 2 teams are so well coached. They're so disciplined. They play team ball. I think they both have great depth. I think they both play such a great brand of basketball. I just think they're both very deserving. And I think it's cool that these 2 teams are here, regardless of what anybody else says. The other thing I would say is this is a real chance for Shai and his legacy to like go to another level. Like, he won the MVP. He won the scoring title. His team won 68 games. He won Western Conference Finals MVP. If he were to win the finals and if he were to win finals MVP, Rylan, all of a sudden we were talking about one of the greatest individual seasons of all time NBA history. So like when you're looking at legacies, this is a great chance, obviously, for the Thunder, for the organization, for Sam Presti, and all those things. But individually, Shai's legacy can like notch like wherever you rank him currently at 26 years old in the current NBA and all-time rankings, whatever it is, he's taking a leap if the Thunder win.
I totally agree that this is a finals that should be celebrated, and it won't be by national circles. This is going to be beautiful basketball. Like the style of play, the pace of the game, like the stardom of those that actually watch the sport that they cover. Like, you understand who Tyrese Haliburton is. You understand who Pascal Siakam is. You understand who these guys are on both sides. It's not your job to cater and pander to the guys that do not watch the sport. It's your job to sell what you've seen or what you should have seen all season long if you were actually doing your job. And I'm so sick of the national media because they did it to Indiana whenever they hosted the All-Star game. They did it to Salt Lake City whenever they hosted the All-Star game. Folks, you're getting paid to go to these markets and cover basketball.
Yeah.
You have travel paid for. You have the credential to the game. You have your lodging paid for. This is not a vacation. You're not vacationing to Indiana for All-Star weekend. You're not vacationing to Oklahoma City on Thursday for game 1 of the finals. You are working. You are working the NBA finals. It's about basketball. It's not about how big the cities are. It's not about the nightlife in the cities. It's about your job. Do you think factory workers that get sent to Durham, North Carolina and Dayton, Ohio love that? No, they're doing their job. They're not vacationing in Boca Raton. They're doing their job. So save me the national media complaints about, but we're having to fly into such a small airport in Oklahoma and go watch basketball for free for our living. It's just so tough. I mean, my wife is so hard. Where can I get drunk in Oklahoma City? Hey, newsflash, the NBA pays for you to get free booze after every game. Like, they're throwing you a media party for free. They're telling you exactly where to go, and you're not having to spend a dime on it. Newsflash, the hotel and the travel to these places are free by your outlet. Shut up. Just shut up and do your job. That's all you need to do. Just shut up and do your job. That's it. Cover the finals, which is going to be a beautiful finals. And by the way, you don't get dividends for how many people around the world watched the NBA finals. Furthermore, this final specifically means nothing for the league. They just signed their TV contracts that haven't gotten kicked in yet. We're 10 years away from having to rely on ratings to boost the next contracts for the TV revenue for the sport. So even from a league standpoint, it doesn't matter. But especially from a fan standpoint and from a media standpoint, it doesn't matter at all. So just shut up. But that's going to be one of the biggest storylines of this finals, and it's going to be insane. Brandon, what's your prediction?
First of all, top tier, grade A+ rant. Glad I was here for it. Second of all, my prediction, this is tough. I'm going Thunder in 5, which I feel like is disrespectful to the Pacers, and I don't want to be because, like I just said, I think they are completely deserving to be in this finals. I think they are a great team. I just don't think this goes to 7. And Indiana has such a great home court advantage. I actually respect them so much. I think winning a game 6 in Indy would be tough, a closeout game. I think it's a 5-game series, but one that's closer than 5 games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're putting down. Of like game 4, for example, for the Thunder and Timberwolves, that was a close game. And had all 5 games been like that, that would have been a close 5-game series. Instead, you had a trio of Thunder blowouts, and then the one close win for OKC in that 5-gamer. I would agree with you on the 5 games being a good prediction. I would agree that 7 games feels a bit too long for this series. I will cower it out. In all likelihood, I have time to change my prediction because I just believe in the Pacers shot variance too much. Like I believe that they're going to knock down enough shots to win a couple games in this series. So I would probably predict it to go longer than 5. You're gonna have to wait to find out my official prediction. I almost spoiled it there. But I think it's a great prediction, Brandon. I'm excited to cover the first finals alongside you in OKC and in Indiana. I personally loved my time in Indiana for All-Star Weekend. I thought it was a beautiful city. So I'm excited to get back there in a time when it's not going to be a blizzard. So I'm excited to see that whenever there's not snow covering the ground in Indiana. But Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.